Hi, my name is Drew, N1ER or N1er for you ham types. You know, I'm a lot like you. I have things in life that I love doing, and I've discovered that if you find a way to make those things intersect, life is even more awesome. You may think that hogs and ham radio can't go together. Well, I'm here to change your mind. There are other things that I enjoy doing as well. For instance, I love watching my kids play sports, play in band, and live life. I love working in ministries and with underprivileged groups. And you know what? I love Georgia Tech, the Atlanta Braves, and yes, the X-Files. I'm here to answer all sorts of questions and show you how your passions can intersect. We'll talk hogs and hams, but also drink some bourbon and play some D&D, so join me on this episode of Hogs and Hams. Hello again, everyone. This is N1er. Welcome to part 2 of our online ham exam licensing videos. So in this episode, we're actually going to get to meet Brandon. Now, if you remember in the last episode, we talked a little bit about him, and actually today we brought him in for an interview. So without further ado, let's talk to Brandon. Hi, thanks Brandon for joining us today for the interview. If you could, please just introduce yourself and the club and just tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute joy to do this. My name is Brandon Hess. My call sign is WB1DR. That is Whiskey Bravo 1 Bravo Romeo. My Canadian call that I use primarily when I'm home in Canada is Victor Alpha 6 India Lima Sierra. I am the president and founder for the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, as well as the chairman for the Aurora Amateur Radio Group Volunteer Examiner Program. Our club call is WL9Z in the United States. That's Whiskey Lima 9 Zulu in the United States. And since we are also in Canada, our Canadian club call is Victor Oscar 2 Alpha Uniform Romeo. Our club got started in 2016 as a result of several of us who gathered together initially on Internet Relay Chat to talk about various things. And we had a common interest to become a group of folks that would meet on IRC on a regular basis, and we decided, we're going to start a club. We need to do something, and, give us a call sign and help us fill a void that, was kind of needed on IRC at the time. So we applied for establishment of a club. We got ourselves established in September of 2016. As a matter of fact, last month we celebrated our 5th birthday, and it almost pittered out for quite some time, but in 2019, things kind of picked up for us, and it has absolutely blossomed into where we are today. And quite honestly, I have seen probably one of the most profound evolutions in this group that I have seen just in the last 18 months than compared to what I've seen since we started in 2016. So our club has come a long way, and quite honestly, being the one that has front row seats to it, I have enjoyed the ride, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, awesome. And so as you were working through this idea for online ham licensing, how did that process start, and what did that look like? What spurred it along?
So in 2012, the Anchorage Amateur Radio Club Volunteer Examiner Coordinator had submitted a petition to the Federal Communications Commission, in part asking for them to authorize the ability for volunteer examiner coordinators to offer remote testing to various places where in-person exams would not be practical. So the petition was filed in 2012, and it wasn't until 2014 that the FCC authorized it, and that authorization was given to us in WT docket 14-74. And so that docket essentially gave us the groundwork, if you will, for the ability to do remote examinations. Now, since 2014, several of the volunteer examiner coordinators in the country have gone the direction of remote testing or remote web-based testing. However, the Anchorage Amateur Radio Club Volunteer Examiner Coordinator was the very first in the country to actually administer a remote exam, and has since helped pioneer a lot of what we have today. So fast forward to what really sparked this all and what really got everything going was in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic first launched. A lot of clubs in the country had simply just shut down. Literally at the beginning of 2020, well, March of 2020, a lot of in-person testing around the United States literally just closed up shop.
Sure.
And so what ended up coming out of that was the immediate need to offer web-based remote testing. Now, being the former chairman for the Anchorage Amateur Radio Club, BEC, I helped pioneer a lot of what their BEC has today, which is we built a process of taking applications and then scheduling them based on their availability, based on our availability. It was very rough in the beginning. We still had a lot of things that were honestly unknown to us, but over a course of 6 to 8 months, the platforms we would use and the deliverables in getting remote examinations done would evolve into where we are today, which is honestly has come a long way when you think of what's happened just in the course of 18 or 19 months. A lot has changed, a lot has evolved. As of right now, it's safe to say that there are many BE teams around the country offering it, and each have their own flavor. But at the end of the day, the availability of remote testing has truly come a long way since we first started doing this on a nationwide basis in February of 2020.
And that's awesome. That's amazing, like that y'all are able to provide that service and just kind of help people out. And yeah, I'm sure COVID had a lot to do as far as kind of spurring that along. Like, how many people have gotten licensed this way?
I wish I had the immediate numbers as far as the number of people who have been licensed through web-based means. I want to say, if I was to give you a conservative estimate, perhaps maybe 15 to 20,000 people at least that I know of in the last 18 months have been licensed through remote testing. I would honestly think the number is more. That's a rather conservative estimate, but I believe that number is certainly more. And I honestly believe those numbers will keep going up as the need and the demand for remote testing continues.
Wow. And so you're definitely seeing an uptick in the applications for people doing this. Like that's getting more and more, I guess.
We are, and actually what we're finding is, so the original purpose of remote testing, honestly, when it's all started, was to provide a service for what I would consider the underserved. And when I say the underserved, providing a service for those who lived in areas where you couldn't easily get to an in-person testing site. For example, in Alaska, we have many areas in the state that have absolute terrible logistical issues when it comes to getting a team of volunteer examiners out to their location. In many cases, it's very impractical. It costs a lot of money, and getting people to devote at least a few days of their time to get up there and do it can also be an issue. So that was the original purpose, was to serve the underserved, serve those rural areas with the opportunity to get their amateur radio license. And now fast forward to where we are right now, this has really been the catalyst for adding a convenience that allows somebody, regardless of their physical location, to literally take an amateur radio license exam within the comfort of their own home. And that right there has been the biggest thing that people have really enjoyed about the opportunity to actually test remotely.
Gotcha. So walk me through what the process for registering and taking the test looks like. What does that look like?
So for the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, if you want to test remotely with us, it's a very comprehensive process. So what happens is you'll first go to our remote testing page, and that can be found by clicking the remote testing link on our website. We'll give you that information later. You'll click on the remote testing page, the remote testing link on our website. When you load the page, there's a lot of information on it, and that information is there to ensure you fully understand what is expected of you, and you also understand what is expected of us. So how it works is you read the page, all of the information such as the technical requirements, the costs involved are all on the page, but you'll read the page. You then click on a link at the bottom of our page to begin the registration process. And what that registration process looks like is it will then take you to our web-based exam platform called Ham Exam Jam. The website is hamexamgen.com, and if anybody wants more information on that, they can get a hold of me, and I'll give you that information later. So you go to our website, hamexamgen.com. The first thing that you'll see is it'll ask you to select the club that you would be testing with, and in our case, it'd be AARG. You'll click on continue, and then from there, you'll select the available date. So the one thing you'll want to know about us is we do testing every Tuesday and Thursday, 2,300 hours UTC. And so what we do is we allocate so many slots per session. So if the session is still showing up on the list, it's pretty simple. We've got a spot open, and if you want to grab it, get it while the getting's good. Select a date, and then below that, you'll select the element or elements that you want to test with us for. You can select more than one if you feel brazen enough to do it. Then from there, you'll fill out what we call a 605 form, which is really an amateur radio license application. You'll fill out the application. You'll submit it to us. Once the application is being received on our end, you'll be immediately prompted to pay for your exam. You'll do the payment through the web portal right there on our exam platform, and then from there, we will verify that you've paid, make sure that everything in your application looks good, and provided that the slot is open for the date that you requested, we'll assign you the slot. So we keep in mind we're all volunteers, and the thing that it's so imperative, don't expect instant gratification. And it doesn't matter who you're testing with, don't expect instant gratification. We get to your application as quickly as we possibly can, but again, don't expect it to be immediate. Once we get in and verify that you've paid, once we get in and verify that your application is good, we will assign you to the session that you've requested. Then we'll send you an email confirmation, which simply says, we have confirmed your payment, we have confirmed your spot, you are good to go. And then from there, it'll simply include instructions, which is where we proceed and how we do things. We will tell you in that email that within 4 to 12 hours of the exam date that you have registered for, you'll receive an email from us that tells you what time slot that you registered for. So on exam day, we break it down into at least 2 or 3 time slots. So we don't do everybody at once, unless our numbers are small. Unless we have 4 or 5 people testing with us, we can do it in what we would call one round of testing. So we would have all 4 or 5 of those applicants at the same time. We would get them set up and get them into the room. But if there's more than 4 or 5 applicants, we break it down to ensure that the examining load on the VE team in each room is not overbearing for them. So on that day, you'll receive an email from us, and it basically says, this is the time slot you've been allocated, so this is the time to be watching for a Zoom link. And the one thing that we get asked all the time, where's my Zoom link? Where's my Zoom link? And we're talking hours before the session starts. The one thing I want people to understand, we do not send you a Zoom link until we are ready for you to test. The purpose of that email on exam day is to let you know the time you'll be receiving that Zoom link. Keep in mind, things happen, and in the event there's a delay, you could be delayed 15 or 20 minutes. You have to understand, we're all volunteers, and some examinees take a little longer than others. I can't control that, and I don't want anything to do with controlling that, because the examinee is encouraged to take their time. So you'll, on the day of your exam, when you receive the email that's entitled "It's time for your exam," that's the email that'll have the Zoom link in it. You'll click on the Zoom link. You'll join us on Zoom. You'll see all of our smiling faces in the lobby. We'll greet you. We'll do some introductions, get your technology squared away, and get you into your exam room. We have procedures in place while you're in the exam room to make sure the environment meets the requirements set forth in Part 97 of the Commission's rules, as well as our own requirements for making sure that we are 100% certain that we're giving you a test with the highest level of honesty and integrity before actually letting you get underway. So we get the room set up, we get you all sorted out, and then we get you into your exam. Provided you pass the exam, we send your results within an hour after the session is over to the AARL VEC, where they'll process it, and the amateur radio license is typically issued within a business day or 2. After the session is over, we send out an email to everybody saying, with a few links of information. One of those is to look for your license in the ULS, and another one is to a survey. We always ask our examinees to fill out a feedback form to tell us how they feel we did. And many of them, hundreds, have left very positive feedback for us, and all of that can be found on our website. So that's the gist of it. Without going into all the technical details, it sounds like a lot, but in all honesty, if you read and are willing to actually understand what's being presented on the webpage when you go to see it, it all seems to make sense. But again, that's my own personal perspective, having done this for such a long time.
Sure, that makes total sense. So, are people able to take all the FCC amateur radio tests?
Yeah, so amateur radio license testing is not limited to simply one element. If you feel like you've studied and you want to come in and do all three exams, I would encourage you to do all three. It just means you don't have to see us 3 times, that's all. So, yeah, you can do all three exams. And yes, we have done sessions where a person would come in and they would walk in the door or come into the Zoom conference with absolutely no license in their hand whatsoever, no call sign, and they would walk out with a certificate of successful completion of examination, having shown that they have passed all three elements, and would get their amateur extra class privileges. So absolutely, if you feel like you studied for all three and you want to do it, you're more than welcome to do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing it.
And who authorizes the club to actually give these exams?
So the authorization to the club is given to us by a VEC, or a volunteer examiner coordinator for short. So a volunteer examiner coordinator is an organization that has entered into an agreement with the Federal Communications Commission to coordinate, administer, and certify examinations that allows applicants to become eligible to receive an amateur radio license based on the class of license that they've tested for. So the VEC that we are with, which is the ARRL VEC in Newington, Connecticut, they have given us permission to use their VEC for the purposes of remote and also in-person testing, using an all-paperless means, which ultimately is our own exam platform. So each club may have a slightly different agreement, but the fundamentals are the club has to have some sort of agreement to use a particular volunteer examiner coordinator for their testing needs, with the implied understanding that they have to follow the policy set forth by the coordinating VEC, but most importantly the rules set forth in Part 97, Subpart F of the FCC rules, which pertains to the volunteer examiner program and VECs as a whole.
Okay, so I'm interested in taking an online exam. Like, what are the base requirements that I have to have that y'all need to make sure that I have in place in order to test?
Yeah, so the first thing that we tell people is, and it's really the most important, you need to be capable of running 2 cameras at the same time. So what that simply means is the way we're set up to do it, the way we do it, is we encourage all people to have a primary device, which is the device you would be taking your exam on, and that can be a laptop or a desktop computer. We don't allow tablets or iPads or anything like that for the exam itself. We do offer, in some cases, we do allow people who have the Microsoft Surface, I think that's what they call it these days, to actually do the exam on, and they seem to work quite well. Basically, your primary device is what you'll have your Zoom client installed on. That'll be your primary video feed. And then your secondary device can be anything. It can be another computer. It can be a laptop, a smartphone, a tablet. You need to have that second camera feed. So why do we ask for 2 camera feeds? Well, the 2 camera feeds allows us to, first off, to have the primary, the head and shoulders in plain view. That's what the primary device is for. And then the secondary video feed allows us to have that side angle, or that back side angle of the examinee, to also see their immediate workspace, the keyboard, the screen, displaying the exam, etc. We require 2 cameras, so that's the fundamental requirement. To have those 2 cameras, you have to have sufficient bandwidth to run those 2 video feeds. So now the question becomes, well, how much bandwidth do I require to have those 2 camera feeds? In my experience, and for the nearly thousands of these that I have done, I have seen that the bare basic bandwidth requirement for two Zoom video feeds tends to be around 7 to 10 megs if you want a very comfortable experience without the video completely dropping on us. So not only do you need the two camera feeds, but you need one feed for audio. We have to have two-way audio on you at all times so we can communicate with you and so you can communicate with us after the exam is complete. So two cameras, and one of those cameras must have your audio feed on it. That must be capable of being run with your home internet connection. Along with the two camera feeds and the one audio feed, you need a modern web browser. So our exam platform that we have, being the co-developer of it, I can personally test. It will work on just about any browser, but it has to be a modern, updated browser. So you got to have that. So you need a web browser. You also need the latest installation of Zoom, not only installed on your laptop or your desktop, but your secondary device as well. That way, in case we have any issues with moving you into your exam room, we can immediately identify whether or not you've got the current version of Zoom installed. Some people don't, and it requires them to update their client before we can get them into the exam room. So the cameras, the audio, the internet browser, and then ultimately to come to us on exam day and be fully prepared, you need valid government-issued photo ID, which we have very strict requirements on that, especially if you're testing outside the United States. And then also, you need your 10-digit FRN. So if you don't have your FRN, we provide a link on our remote testing page for you to apply for and receive your FRN. The application to get the FRN is free, but once you have that FRN, that is how you identify yourself with us, and that is how you identify yourself with the FCC. The FRN is required with us not only as part of your application, but that's also what is required for you to navigate our exam platform. That's kind of like your exam PIN. So there's another platform that'll give you a 4-digit PIN. Well, for us, our PIN, quote unquote, is the FRN. So you've got to have that written down on a piece of scratch paper. And then, of course, if you have a calculator and you want to use it, it must be capable of being fully cleared in front of the examiner team. And if you don't have one but you want to use one, we do have one built into our exam platform, and the cost for it is $0.
Nice. And I'm glad you brought up cost. Like, what is the cost for taking an exam and signing up with y'all?
Yeah, so we have to adhere to the exam fee set forth by the AARG DEC, which is $15 to take your exam. So if you fail your exam and you want to retest, unfortunately, the way their policy is set up, we do have to charge you another $15. Me personally, I strongly disagree with it, and I'm not afraid to put that out there. But if you pass your exam, or you want to take more than one element in a sitting, it's $15 to take your exam. And again, that $15 covers as many exam elements as you want to take. If you come and take all three, you're not going to be charged $15 for each exam. You pay $15 for your seat. But again, if you take two elements and you pass your tech in general, and you want to try for your extra and you fail it, but you're close to passing, we'll let you retest if you're within our parameters for retesting, but you will have to pay the additional $15 to retest.
Gotcha. And I'm guessing payment is done online through a secure format,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. We're set up with Square to do all of our payment processing. We accept all major debit and credit cards. We accept Google Pay. And I believe our platform is going to be set up at some point to take Apple Pay. But I know Google Pay works great with it. I've had a couple people pay with that already. But again, all major credit and debit cards, as long as it has a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover logo on it, you're pretty much good to go.
So what do you encourage people to look at as far as study resources? Any websites, any books to read? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny you asked that question, because having taught all 3 license courses as an instructor, I get that question a lot. And at the end of the day, the one thing I tell people, you find resources based on your learning ability. So we all learn differently. We all study differently for different things. Some people want to sit in a classroom so they can drill an instructor with hundreds of thousands of questions, which for me, I don't mind. I enjoy the questions. But some people like that interaction with a person where they can listen, stop the instructor, ask questions on the fly, get answers to those questions, and then they carry on. That's one of probably the best methods that you could possibly do for studying. or for learning the material. However, if you don't have the luxury of sitting in a classroom, and I know a lot of people aren't even doing in-person courses right now due to the pandemic going on, people would flock to online resources. So again, the online resources is boiled down to a couple of different things. If you are the type of person that is visual, so if you're a visual learner, um, there are video courses out there on YouTube. I would recommend looking up, just doing a simple search through your favorite search engine. Look up video courses. I know Dave Kassler, Kilo Echo Zero Oscar Golf, has a lot of video courses on the free classes family radio license in the U.S. There are others out there. Me personally, I haven't had a chance to look at all the content that's out there because you're inundated with it. So the video option is always a good way to go. However, if you're the kind of person that likes to sit and read and you don't care about the visual effects, you can get the visual effects in your head through reading, then there are a multitude of books. So what I encourage people to do is, the ARRL has put out material for amateur radio licensing for years. I have always recommended their course material, their books and materials to them, for the simple reason that they're supposed to be our representative in the United States for amateur radio, and so I would put the burden on them to ensure that they have accurate material for their readers and for those studying for their license. Yes, the material can be a little bit dry at times, but I think you're going to find that no matter where you go. So just absorb the material, read the material. I would go with that personally. Also, there are a series of books written by the W5YI folks, the Gordon West books. There we go. He has written study material on all three classes of license. He's put out a lot of great information, a lot of great study materials. He has some good details out there too in paperback format. And then there's websites out there that offer online courses. And it depends on where you go. If I were to give you my personal recommendation on an online course, I would honestly send people to Hamtest Online.
Okay.
Hamtest Online, I don't remember the fees because I have never personally used them for my studies, but I have sent a lot of people there in the past, and they have come out with great success. However, conversely, our club website, aarg.club, if you go to the resources page on our website, we have a lot of materials that I have put up there myself for studying for your license, not just in the U.S. but in Canada as well. Being a Canadian, I give the Canadian exam for these courses too. But on our club website, we have a video course for the technician class license. It's about 6 hours and 30 minutes long. It's an older video. It's probably 10 or 12 years old at this point. I bid you all a warning. Their haircuts or their hairstyles may not be to the current times that we're in, but please let me be clear. Don't worry about the hairstyles. Just absorb the information. I'm telling you, there's a lot of great information, a lot of great teaching in that 6.5 hour video course. Watch the video if you want to do that. That's what I would recommend at the end of the day. Watch the video course because it covers not only all the theory you need to know for your technician, but it even covers a lot of theory for the general class license, so keep that in the back of your mind. Also on our club website, I have my material that I use for in-person classroom settings in PowerPoint format, available for download. It's free of charge. You can grab it, do what you want with it. And then there's also several PDF study guides. One of them in particular is written, I'll never forget the man's, well, I will forget the man's name because I don't look at it enough. But it's written by a gentleman. He lives in Spokane Valley, Washington. He has written study guides for all three classes of license. And what the study guides entail? They entail, basically, they go through the question pool. They give you the question. They show only the correct answer. And for those questions that require an explanation, he provides an explanation as to why. Because a lot of people ask, well, why is this the way it is? He provides that why. He provides that answer to the answer. And if there's a graphic image that is required to help reinforce the reasoning for that answer, he provides that too. And they're very compact format in PDF. They're all PDF format. So we have that for the tech, we have that for the general, and we have that same type of study guide for the amateur expert. So if you want free materials and you want to give our website a shot, I would strongly encourage you to give that a look over.
Thank you for that info. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit. We've been talking about exam taking from a person that's applying to get their license, but I heard you mention this, and I kind of want to expound on it a little bit. What is a VE? When you're talking about these VEs, what is their job in this process?
Well, a VE is probably the most important aspect for the gateway to amateur radio. A VE is a volunteer examiner. And so a volunteer examiner is simply a qualified individual who holds the proper license class to become accredited through a VEC or volunteer examiner coordinator. A volunteer examiner can be accredited with more than one volunteer examiner coordinator, and a volunteer examiner simply does one thing and one thing only. That is to volunteer their time in the administration of amateur radio license exams and certification of the results for each exam, and ensuring that everything is accurate before it's submitted to the VEC for processing, and ultimately going to the FCC to ensure that the individual gets their license for the rest of it.
Gotcha. So is the club, are y'all looking for VEs? And if yes, how does one become a VE, if they're interested in doing that?
So yes, we are always, so the Aurora Amateur Radio Group VE program, we're always looking for volunteer examiners. So we're not looking for just anybody in particular. We're looking for people who have a legitimate desire to want to serve. And so I'm going to go off on a rabbit trail for a moment, but I promise I'll get back to the point. So with our program, we have something that's very different, very unique compared to a lot of the other volunteer examiner teams across the United States. And what makes us different is this. We have a mentality that allows us to act and be like family. We're like a very large family, is what it boils down to. We are a group of individuals, a group of men and women who always devote their time, constantly devote our time into the service of serving America's underserved through compassion, professionalism, dignity, respect for others, and most importantly of all, helping others get what they want, which is ultimately an amateur radio license or an upgrade to their license if that's what they're here for. Currently we have 28 volunteer examiners on our team, from not just across the United States, but also some in Canada as well. And we have VEs who are of all ages. We have VEs who are in their 20s who are serving with us, and we have VEs who are in their 80s who are serving with us. They come from all walks of life. But our program is very unique because we have a desire to not only provide this service, but we have a legitimate care for each other that, in my mind, has helped make the roots grow so incredibly deep that it actually rubs off on every examinee that we have. And the testimonials that these examinees leave us speak clearly for themselves. So, are we looking for VEs? Yes. If you want to serve with us, keep in mind that you would not so much be joining a volunteer examiner team. You'd basically be joining a family. You would be joining a team of men and women who actually feel that they don't have to be here doing this, but feel they want to be here doing this. And that is something that has not faded since the day we started doing this. So how do you become a volunteer examiner? Well, if you're not accredited, the process is pretty simple. You have to first complete the open book examination that is done through the AARG VEC. That documentation, all that paperwork is available on our website. You'll download the PDF document, fill it in, answer all 40 of their questions. Once you've completed the examination, the open book examination through the AARG VEC, what I suggest to people, if you want to join our VE program, is upon completing that documentation or upon completing the open book exam, forward it to me directly, and I'll make sure you've got all my contact information at the end. I will vet it. I will totally look it over, make sure everything is good to go. I won't submit an exam to the ARRL VEC if you failed it. That's just how I am. I will make sure you understand the questions you've missed, and once everything is answered correctly, I will then forward it off to the ARRL VEC. Once the ARRL VEC receives the documentation, I have received somebody's accreditation in as little as 5 minutes, and I've had it take as much as 4 or 5 days for somebody to become accredited. But if I submit it to the ARRL, they seem to act upon it a lot faster than if the individual applying submits it directly. If the individual submits it directly, it could be 3 to 4 weeks before they get an answer. Whereas if you have me do it for you, it goes a lot quicker. So that's becoming a VE itself. So our process, once you become accredited, and I have confirmation that you've become accredited, you'll fill out a simple application on our website to become a VE. You'll give us your general schedule of availability. Then there's a couple of questions in there. We ask you why you want to be a part of our program. We ask how you feel you could be an asset to us and not a liability. And then from there, I will review the information, and typically I'll give you a phone call. So the phone call typically lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. I go through the intricacies of our VE program, and then from there I'll end up sending you our VE handbook, which covers our internal operating policies and procedures, which are in a very big way different from the ARRL. But at the end of the day, we still certainly uphold the Part 97 of the Commission's rules, and we still uphold the working policies of our coordinating VE. So once we do that, once I approve your application, I put you on our roster, and then from there, it's just a matter of getting you trained to use our exam platform, which again is our own in-house exam platform. And once we get your training done, then guess what? We start putting you on the roster, put you in the rotation, and you pretty much dive in, and you get to serve right alongside us. And yeah, it's a little tense for the first couple sessions, but once you see the flow of things, you find yourself fitting right in pretty quick, and that's what we look for more than anything else.
And so where can people go as far as website if they're interested in signing up for an exam or even interested in looking into the VE process a little bit more with you? Like what website?
So the easiest way to do it, I would encourage you to go to our club website, which is AARG.club. That is Alpha Alpha Romeo Golf Charlie Lima Uniform Bravo. So when you load the page, you will see our club name at the top, a bunch of information on the main portion of the page. What I would direct your focus to is to the navigation panel. It's a green navigation panel below our logo. On the left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of links. The 2 links that you would want to focus on, if you're interested in remote testing, you'll want to click on the link that says remote testing. And then if you're interested in the VE program, very bottom link, it'll be at the bottom left-hand corner of that web page. You'll see a link that says VE program. That'll open up in a separate tab where you can go through and see the information about our VE program, see the requirements for joining us. And then from there, if you're already accredited, there will be information on how to join our VE program. If you're legitimately interested and you want to serve with us, that's where I would send you. Just go to aarg.club, and all of the information is right there on the website.
And is that the best way to contact yourself or the club if people have any questions for follow-up?
Well, if you want to contact me, I'm very quick to respond to email because apparently I don't have a life, and I have the tendency to constantly, have my email client up and running, and it does ding a lot, but that's okay. That just tells me I've got mail and I got to look at it. So the easiest way to contact me is via email. You can email me directly by sending to president@aarg.club. Again, that's president@aarg.club. And shoot me an email. Again, don't expect instant gratification, although I've been known to get back to people within minutes, but that's because most of the time I might have the client open and I'm right in front of my screen, and I can see your email and typically render a quick response. So, but yeah, that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. If you feel the need to chat further, just ask me for my telephone number in an email, and I'll happily give it to you. Or just leave me your phone number, and I'll be more than glad to give you a call. Just keep in mind, if I'm in Canada, I'll be calling from a Canadian cell, so be mindful that I do have to use international long distance. But either way, we'll make it work, and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Brandon, for spending the time just to kind of give an idea of the club and give an idea of what the process looks like. I really do appreciate it. And do you have any like parting thoughts or anything you want to let people know?
Well, I would say at the end of the day, we are not your typical group. We're not, the Aurora Amateur Radio Group is not your typical club, and I say that because, like I said before, we are like a very big family. And when you come to see us, whether it's for testing or if you want to serve alongside us as a volunteer examiner, you're going to be treated like family. And it's that mentality that has honestly allowed us to be as successful as we have. If you're looking at joining our VE team and you're coming from a group that is already doing remote testing, I must tell you in advance that you are in for a much different and much more laid-back experience than what you're typically used to, albeit to say we still allow for that laid-back experience to catapult into allowing us the opportunity of holding what we do to the highest levels of honesty and integrity and still have fun in the process. So give us a shot, give us a try, don't be bashful. If you're interested in taking a remote test with us, it would be my absolute joy to have you. And again, all the information can be found online through our website, aarg.club. And if you have any further questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to email me, president@aarg.club, and I'll do my absolute best to get back to you as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Brandon. I highly encourage you to go out and check out the website that Brandon talked about if you have any interest in taking your ham exam online, or if you're interested in doing like the VE thing. Go check out those websites. And I want to leave you today are to Go Nugget. So Brandon actually hit on something that I'm pretty passionate about. And if you've seen the intro video, then you know kind of what I'm talking about. He talked about serving the underserved. So one of the things that the AARG does, and it was originally created for, was working with people and for people that are underserved. And in the interview, Brandon brought up the idea of helping people get licensed that didn't have access to like a physical location. I love that. I love that intersection of your love for a hobby and then also pairing that with a passion of, serving the underserved. So that's my kind of to-go nugget for y'all. Look for that area of life where you have passion in, whether it's a hobby or family or whatever, and then also figure out a way, if there's a way to like serve that group better. Maybe it's the guy that never gets picked for the basketball game, I don't know, whatever it is. But try and find those people and those things and those groups that are being underserved and try and serve them better. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining me once again, and we'll see you next time on Hogs and Hams.